Somebody's clicking.
Oh, yo. hey, I'm sorry.
Hold on. Case openings? Wait.
A ton of money from
is that
hold on, it's my closing
they
thought.
actually everyone's saying they ran out of 3 because they feel it's profitable.
Yo, we need a new intro because I'm tired of losing in that clip. I'm tired of it. Every week I see that Mizzy's like, la, 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 la.
Listen, it doesn't matter if we update it or not. That clip is staying, bro. That's always the part of the intro, right? Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Catalyst Effect podcast. This is episode 37, and today we have a super special episode, man, because we have a recurring guest coming back on the show, Max Mero from Nyan Heroes, a good friend of ours and a goated developer when it comes to games, man. What's up, Max? How are you, man?
Hey guys, it's good to be back. Yeah, I'm good. I've been super busy, but super stoked to be here and hopefully be able to drop some alpha for you guys like we did last time and run it back.
Yes,
Dude,
sir. Yes, sir. First recurring guest ever.
Yes,
Are you
sir.
serious?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Damn. All right, I got big shoes to fill, man. I gotta step it up.
Nah, man, it's gonna be a super fun conversation. Last time was a blast, so I'm excited to get into it this time around, man, and excited to catch up with you, man, because I think the summer it's been really interesting as far as like Web3 gaming goes, because I feel like a lot of teams have been putting their heads down this summer and just working super hard behind the scene to get their products out and stuff. So I'm excited to see what you guys have been up to throughout the summer, since we last talked. But real quick, before we get into all of that, shout out to our sponsor, Player. We'll tell you guys a little bit more about them a bit later into the show. And yeah, man, let's get into it. Max, last time we had you here, it was season 2 of Nyan Heroes. Now you guys are gearing up to come out with season 3. Can you tell us a little bit as far as like what have you guys been up to? What's it been like since season 2 closed? And how's that development look up until now?
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy. Like there's honestly just so much stuff that we've been doing since season 2 ended that like honestly it's really gonna be hard to cover everything because we have so many new updates and so many features going in to this next kind of playtest. And one of the things like we ended season 2 I think early, what was it, late May I think. And so it's only been like 2 months and a bit. It'll probably be sort of closer to 3 months by the time season 3 rolls out. But we've had a jam-packed off season, I guess you could call it. And one of the goals that I had with the studio is, for season 3, I really want to focus on getting new features in. Like when it comes to the player experience, there's going to be, just like in season 1 and 2, some bugs, some jank here and there. We are still in pre-alpha, but in terms of new features, we want to knock it out of the ballpark, and we want to give our players a completely different experience to what they had in season 1 and season 2. So we've just been working crazy hard on getting features in and give you a really kind of high level list of all the new things that we are going to be getting into the game, and we can kind of talk about them individually if there's time. But to start with, you guys are already aware we have a new character coming in, a new mech called the Scout. It's a speedy character. It's thunder based theme. The abilities are also centered around speed and thunder. So it should be a lot of fun to play for the people that like high octane and fast movement. We've got another class coming in, actually, which we haven't announced yet on our socials. Or we haven't leaked yet on our socials, but we had a town hall last week where we announced there will be a second class coming in. That class, the theme, all I can say at the moment is that it's kind of like a mage theme. So 2 new character classes coming in with all their own unique abilities should provide a lot of different, variety of gameplay, a lot more diverse gameplay, because we only had 4 classes before. So that's the major thing. We also have new game mode and a new map. Payload based map. and the theme is ice. So again, this is something that people are aware of and know that's coming in. The thing that I think maybe some people are aware of and others aren't in terms of new features is we are introducing this completely new feature system called mods. And for people that are familiar with mech games or games like Warframe, you will be able to earn mods through playing the game and attach them to your mech to customize them. So each mech will have its own mod board. There'll be a capacity limit for that mod board, and you'll be able to attach various mods onto your mech. There'll be some mods that are a bit more straightforward, like, just flat stats, flat damage, flat health, flat armor, and things like that. But there will also be special mods that have completely unique effects. So some of them, for example, might give you lifesteal, and that's a completely different kind of gameplay mechanic that doesn't exist in the game otherwise. So the goal of this mod system is that players can not only kind of find their mech that they really, really like, their one trick, but they can also refine it and refine the playstyle that they prefer through our mod system. So even though you might have, a number of players that main medic, you'll probably have some players that prefer to be a little bit more combat focused, others that prefer to be a bit more defensive and survivable, and others that prefer to provide more utility for their teams. And through that mod system, you'll be able to refine how you want to play that medic. So
holy shit, man.
Huge. Yeah, it's a lot of back-end work that we did, but yeah, super excited.
This man came in and just cooked for like fucking 5 minutes straight. Holy shit.
Max came in packing, bro. He came in packing, bro. Holy shit, there's a lot to unravel in that conversation, man. Hado, it looks like you have something to say, bro. Go ahead and start us off here.
I do have a question. So, is this something that you set pre-game or during the game?
So you set it pre-game.
Okay.
I think a nice reference would be something like the rune.
That's what I was getting at
in League of Legends.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Dude.
Okay.
This is exciting, bro.
Real quick,
That's
let me
awesome.
shout out some people in the crowd. Damien, you don't count. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, Damien? we got Bonesy in the house. Quantum. Shout out Jackie. All right, let's get back to the show, man.
Yo,
we
shout out to the people, man.
We have so much to unpack here, man. Like, wow. All right, so let's take it. Let's take it from the top. The 2 new classes. We previewed one of them in the OG Mag earlier this week. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for working on that with us. Right?
Yeah, man.
That was probably one of the coolest things I've done in Web3 gaming, like being able to leak something that no one had kind of seen before. So that was a lot of fun for us as a team. And the second class, you and I spoke about the second class a little bit. The last time we chatted. It's been living rent free in my head ever since, man. Like, I love mages. I love control style characters, which I'm assuming could potentially be what a mage does. I have no clue, but is there anything else you can talk about that second character and also like expanding more on, the first character, the lightning themed one?
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys already aware that one of the main systems in our game that we're trying to incorporate to differentiate ourselves from other kind of more typical hero shooters or hero-based games is this dynamic ability system. For those of you guys that played, that's the E button, the E ability, where depending on what primary weapon you have equipped, that E button has some kind of effect that is different per primary weapon. And in some cases it's more kind of standardized across the board, like for example with the medic, if you press your E button you heal with your primary weapon, and I guess that doesn't feel that different even though it technically is, but you could kind of just see it as a regular ability. But some of the other classes, for example the tank, where you use the shield with that dynamic ability, the shield is completely different depending on what weapon you have equipped as your primary. So our goal for these new characters coming in was to really bring out the diversity of that dynamic ability more than what we had originally. So with the scout character, which we're calling Blitz because it's a fast character and it's lightning based, the augment or the E dynamic ability, we are currently calling electrocharge. And what that does is it converts your weapon into an electrified weapon, but with that, it also has a completely different kind of, I guess, bullet style or bullet trajectory. So I don't know if you guys play Borderlands or Tiny Tina, but
Yep.
they have a huge arsenal of weapons, and a lot of them are really kind of fantasy fulfilling, and we drew a lot of inspiration from some of those weapons. So for example, when you electrify your shotgun, instead of just being a regular shotgun, it now fires this horizontal beam of energy in a similar way to some of the shotguns functioned in Borderlands. Like, I don't know if you guys know the horizontal energy beam. So so that's what the shotgun does. And then for the other weapons, instead of firing regular bullets, it might fire a continuous arc of lightning. Again, that'll be something that people can experiment when they play the game. And the other thing is when you do use your electrocharge ability, any enemies that are hit with that will get slowed. So there's some debuffs applied to the enemies as well. And then for the ultimate, it's kind of like this EMP burst, which disables enemies in an AoE effect and also deals damage to them. She kind of disappears for a little while, then reappears in an area of your choosing. So that's and then I forgot her movement ability. This is one of the coolest ones actually. Is she starts sprinting in quad form. So just like how we have our quad form
That's really cool.
ones, yeah, she sprints quad form on the floor.
Oh,
and becomes untargetable. She applies stun charges to enemies, and then when she reactivates the ability, anyone that she passes through gets stunned for a short period of time. So pretty interesting kit. I don't know if any of you guys play Kennen from League of Legends. It's a bit like his little Vault Rush.
Very, very familiar with that character.
Yeah. Okay. So we kind of just took inspiration from a lot of different areas and took abilities and things that we thought were really cool and fun and fulfilled that fantasy and kind of changed them or adapted them to our character. So that's a little insight to our new Scout or Blitz. And then for the Mage, we have conjured weapons, or what we call, I think what the name is Arcane Portal. So when she Arcane Forge. So depending on her primary weapon, she calls out these magical weapons instead, and they all have their different effects. So some of them just shoot forward, like a standard ability. Some of them provide pushback to enemies. So, like for example, there's a spear that you can summon, and when you throw that, it'll pierce an enemy and it'll push them back. And if there's a wall behind them, they'll get stunned onto that wall. And then we have some hammers that come out, and you can do like a giant melee attack with that hammer, and others that just cause various other area of effects. I think we have one that kind of spins around you and then auto tracks enemies near you, a bit like Ari's Foxfire, or I think there's a ability in Elden Ring called Glintblade Phalanx, which kind of just tracks enemies nearby. So again, it's just different per weapon, and the idea is that you pick the weapon that you prefer, but you also pick the augment that you prefer, and then you also pick the mods that you prefer. So if you just combine all of these different things together, there's just so many ways that you can play each hero, and that's our goal.
So yeah, so I have a question. So not really a question, it's more of like an observation. So this is essentially the next leg up into like building a team comp, and you could like partner up with the tanks to put like the bubble shield. Does the AoE effect that you were describing earlier, does that respect the shield, or does it like ignore it? Because if you could like trap somebody, stun them, and then just blast them with that stuff, I could see that could be like a very good team comp to like utilize.
Yeah, the interactions, obviously we still need to refine them, but I think it depends currently on what order some of them might go in. So for example, if there's a character that places an ability that is based on the ground, and then the shield goes over that, well, it doesn't block that ability because that ability is already placed. But if there's a shield that's placed first, and then we have some kind of projectile that gets shot out, then the shield would block all those projectiles. So there is a bit of a rock, paper, scissors type thing, and it depends on the order that they come out.
Got it. Because I was thinking like, I've trapped this person in the shield. Someone comes in with a stun. Now we just go to town with the shotgun, and it bounces around in the shield. Like that would be insane.
That is possibly viable. To be honest, because there are so many different variations internally, we don't actually have enough time to figure out and theory craft and playtest all the different variations internally, which is why people like you guys come in and you guys
Good segue.
and break the game.
Yeah.
Great segue. It's like you'll need people to play test that, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, we do specialize in such things. We're happy to make the sacrifice, you know. Dude, that was amazing. You know, I'm obviously biased because Nyan Heroes is my favorite Web3 game. But as you know, we always keep it fair. We keep the criticism straight up. And but one of the biggest things that I remember telling you from the last playtest was like having more dynamic abilities similar to how the shield changes with Atlas and different weapons was something that we want to see more of. And I'm really happy to hear that you're implementing that within the new characters, because it's so hard to know what Atlas to pick in what situation a lot of the time, I would say. Which makes it so much more fun to play, because you kind of have to master, I would say with Atlas, you definitely have to master at least one of like the launcher weapons, in case you're playing, you know, defense on top of a zone. And then obviously the assault rifle if you're being a little more offensive based. But I just love the fact that there's so many different ways to play Atlas and strategize for different team compositions and situations.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, don't forget, you'll always get your random off-meta tank pick that just chooses to go sniper. And then people will be like, come on, dude. Like, just
Yeah.
Can we play for real?
Yeah, let me ask you a question on that note. So I think there's absolute like usefulness to a mode that, you know, do whatever you want. Kind of like your norms in League of Legends, where there's no like kind of draft pick. Have you guys considered to because I know you guys were talking about in the past, we don't want to split up or alienate the two different people that want to play like more competitively and more like just chill. Are you guys thinking about revamping that a little bit, or are you guys still on course with what you were thinking before?
I mean, eventually, yeah, we want to kind of split our queues so that there's a casual queue for regular play, and then there's a ranked queue for people who want to ranked up. That's always going to be the case, and we are still working towards that. For this particular season release, we're not having a ranked queue because there's still a bit of work to be done on the way that MMR and LP works. So we tested it out in season 2, and we kind of tested a system that was, I would say it was interesting in that we got a lot of data, but to be honest, it was probably a little too early for implementing something like that. So we've kind of we've taken that data, we've learned a lot from it. We're going back to the drawing board, and we're going to be able to present a ranking system that is a lot more robust and hopefully fair. But that won't be coming this season. It'll probably be the next one.
Got it.
Got it. Yeah, I remember you guys implementing that rank. There was a lot of bitching on the timeline. I mean, just calling it for what it is, you know. It was pretty funny. I found it funny because I'm just like, guys, it's obviously going to be broken. It's the first time we're putting it out there. But yeah, it's all right. So we've gotten we've gotten a lot of shit here. I hope you guys in production are ready to do some fucking clips because we got a lot.
Bro, so much happened within the first 20 minutes. And I will say, before we move on forward real quick, I love that you guys are bringing more characters, because I do think it's going to allow players to create new metas in Nyan Heroes with season 3 upcoming, you know, because obviously in the last 2 seasons, a lot of people, I would say the majority of the player base were gearing more towards like the Ghost or Atlas meta. So I'm interested to see like the addition of this 2 new players, or like this new new characters coming into the game. What that's gonna do to, like, you know, character choice and like the new metas are gonna come out of that. It's gonna be pretty interesting. So I'm excited for it, man.
Yeah, and ultimately, you know, we just want people to be able to test them and give us feedback, because there's always this thing of when there's new characters coming in, everyone's worried about power creep and things like that. And that could be the case this time. I'm not sure. We'll do our best to try and balance them before we launch, but there's always going to be balance question marks. So yeah, I mean, obviously, whoever is playing the game, if you have feedback for us, we'd love to hear it, and that'll all help with our balancing for the next patch.
Honestly, I love the fact that you guys are taking risks, though. As someone that's a Blizzard like Blizzard sweat, whatever you want to call it. Blizzard like over balances their characters a lot of the time, specifically like they've done it both in WoW and Overwatch. I feel where they like dilute what makes that particular character special for the sake of balancing. And then it's kind of like carried on into the rest of the gaming industry, where I feel like it's really hard for new characters that we're seeing in games to have like a really special feel around them because they get overbalanced. So it was really nice to see how many risks you guys are taking early on. Like, I know balancing is always going to be a nightmare and shit, but let the community kind of help you figure that out. Like, it's always refreshing to hop into Nyan Heroes and have a completely new experience compared to anything else I've personally played before. So, and now with the 2 new classes and the mods that you were mentioning, right? That's what I wanted to get more into next, like the mods. Because that kind of blew my mind a little bit, and then I was already excited about the mage, so my brain was spiraling.
Yeah, totally. Well, one of the main philosophies that I'm hoping that our team can rally around is that when you are balancing, if there is an ability that is maybe a little overtuned, I would rather kind of take the other characters and try and bring their abilities up rather than watering the overtuned one down, because that's always going to introduce more diversity, more variety. Rather than, if you keep just watering down overpowered abilities, then yes, we are going to get in the same issue of games like Overwatch, where everything feels very samey.
Yep, exactly. And a quick shout out to Quantum again in the chat. For those of you guys that don't know Quantum, he's actually one of the editors on our production team. Exclusively, pretty much plays Web 2 games.
Yep.
Big Halo sweat.
He's also a huge Borderland fan, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
A big Halo sweat that's never played Halo 3.
Yeah,
that's listen, man, he still plays competitive today, so I'm not gonna disrespect.
I'm not gonna take away his skill, but I mean the fact that he hasn't played Halo 3 is pretty disappointing,
But he's been dying to get into Nyan because it's like the one game we're always talking about that we feel comfortable enough to present to like our Web 2 homies.
Also, welcome to JK.
Shout out JK. Yeah, that's where I was going next. Shout out JK. I can't wait to for the upcoming playtest. But yes, let's get into mods. All right. So mods, and then you've also mentioned like augmentations. Are those the same things, or are they separate?
Yeah, we're kind of just going through a bit of an identity reshuffle with some of our names that we're using in game. So mods, we kind of use mods interchangeably with the augments, just because mods is something that people are familiar with from games like Warframe. People already know what mods are. So we do use the word mods fairly liberally, even though in game, if you navigate to the page, it should have augments on the page. So that's what they're officially called. But yeah, sometimes I'll say mods by accident. They're the
cool. Okay. No, I mean, I think both terms work. Which one are you guys sticking with more?
Flipping the coin.
All right, cool.
Like,
so
mods make sense. So that would be the easy route. But of course, many other games use that term. So it's the question of do we want to be different or do we...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching Harry Potter like 2 days ago, and they named everything so uniquely, like everything, like the world building in that game, in that movie, and book series, all of it was crazy. So I mean, I get where you're coming from with wanting to name things uniquely, because I think they become way more yours and a part of your lore and your world building if you take it that route.
Yeah. Have you ever played games where they have names that are so unique that you don't know like what they are? Like there'll be like an equipment system, but they'll call it some word that has nothing to do. It's like a fantasy word, and like, what is this? What is a, you know, I can't even think about it. So then I have to go into the tutorial and be like, what is this thing that I'm collecting? Like, what's my equipment, or what's the intermediate crafting material that I need to create this? Like, they've called it some kind of, you know, crystalline shard.
Yeah, like
just a coin.
Final Fantasy is a lot like that. WoW's a lot like that. You know, like
materia or whatever. Yeah.
I don't want to get too crazy with it, but yeah, I do want to create like a cohesive identity that still sounds like it should be what it is, but is not just what every other game is.
Right.
Got it. So for now, you know, mods, augmentations. I'll just say augmentations because I think most people have heard augmentation. So with augmentations, you're basically like doing, you know, changes on your suit, additions, things like that. I'm assuming there's going to be cosmetics. Yes. No.
Yeah. So there's a few different slots that you can equip into. There's your generic slots that can house most of the generic augments that you can find in game. And then there's 3 additional slots, which we're calling like keystone slots. So you can only equip the correct augment into each keystone slot. So there's one for the helmet, there's one for the back piece, and there's one for like a gauntlet slot. And so each augment, it'll define whether it's a generic augment, or it'll define if it's a special keystone augment that'll fit into a particular slot. And so for the slot augments, the keystone ones, they will have a cosmetic attachment assigned to them. So just like you know, Diablo, when you're equipping a new armor or when you're equipping a new weapon, you will see that cosmetic attachment change as you kind of play around with it in our page.
All right. So, and as far as how do you see that playing out with like all the dynamic powers and stuff? Like we were talking about a little bit of that earlier. Obviously, where it's our job as a gamer to like really break it. But what have you guys seen so far within like your internal playtest? If that's something you can share.
Okay, well, hopefully a lot of these issues might be resolved by the time we launch, but we noticed a number of game breaking mods where we put in and we kind of overtuned it a little bit. So for example, the scout or the blitz character has a passive ability where it builds up kinetic energy over time. So as you, but it specifically builds it up quicker if you're doing acrobatic movements. So if you're wall running, if you're wall climbing, you will gain, and of course if you deal damage, you'll gain that kinetic charge faster. So you start from 0 and you have 3 bars that you can fill up. And what that does is it gives that character some passive abilities. So when you're at 0 charge, you'll actually be 5% slower than all of the other characters at baseline. You'll be 5% slower. I think you have a slight damage nerf. And as you build up that charge, you'll go to parity with the other characters. Then you'll be 5% faster. Then you'll be 10% faster. So that's kind of like a little passive mini game that the scout character has. But you know, there's risk and reward, because in order to activate your abilities, you actually need to consume charge bars. So for example, each dynamic E press that you press, it'll consume 1 charge bar. So you have to decide, do you want to keep that charge and do you want to keep that buff, or do you want to expend it to use your dynamic ability and deal a bit of extra damage and slow the enemies and deal some more AoE. But of course, if you use that for that brief period of time, then your bar will be gone and you'll be back down in terms of your speed and some of your power. So it's about bar management, gauge management for that character. But because of the passive speed buff, we also have some mods or augments that give speed benefits. And so we kind of overtuned the mods, and that character just became insanely fast with its passive ability plus you know, the speed mods that we gave them, and it just became an absolute joke. It was so hard to hit, and it was also really hard to control. So we've kind of dialed those down. But yeah, there's been a ton of those kind of things that we've played around with. There's a passive mod that when you die, it becomes your mech becomes like a bit of a diva bomb, so it becomes a self-destruct bomb
Oh shit!
when you move out of your and that one was overtuned as well, because what you can do is you can die, you'll leave that diva bomb, and then it'll deal damage, but because it deals damage when you're in cat mode, your cat recharge meter fills up instantly again. And then you can remake instantly. So it was a bit of a, it was a bit of an exploit. But yeah, those things are bound to happen, and I'm sure there'll be more of these things that we don't catch that hopefully you guys will be able to catch and maybe exploit for a bit before we patch out.
Yeah,
there was one exploit that Cloudz found.
Yeah,
season
I
1.
I used to love it because you can only do it with the ghosts, and it was the one that you could go inside the enemy base while they were spawning. That was fun.
Oh yeah. I think that one got patched out eventually, right?
Yeah,
I also
yeah, for sure.
I also ran into a player that wasn't losing any health when I was shooting them. And I think that was like some glitch or something.
That was you posted that on Twitter, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one was an actual bug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Cloudz found it, because he was one of the. I think I'd only seen like one other person do it at that point, and it wasn't something that was really widely talked about. I was like, it's probably like a bug or a glitch. I didn't pay much attention to it, but when I saw Cloudz deliberately do it, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it was funny because it happened to me while I was live. So I was just streaming one day, and then I clicked the thing in front of the door, or like the barrier, and it just let me go inside, and I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be in here. And then it was really funny because the players on the enemy team, I don't think they had seen that either, because they all like kind of just stare at me and they were like, what? Like, what just happened right now? So it's really funny, dude. It was really fun. I love little broken things like that, you know. So that's really cool.
Yeah, no,
do you guys know the bug at the moment in Marvel Rivals? I don't know if any of you guys are playing it. The one with Jeff the Land Shark.
No, I haven't had a chance to play it.
I've been playing a lot of Supervive and X Defiant these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say X Defiant had a pretty big bug too.
I can't find codes for Marvel Rivals, so.
Oh shit.
Shit. Well, in X Defiant, there was this bug where they have this thing called the spider bot, and it's like the spider thing that jumps in your face and it like shocks you and it doesn't let you move. And you were able to shoot it off if you look straight down and shoot your gun. And apparently that was a bug that wasn't supposed to be in there, but the team kept it in there because it was like a good solution for balancing the spider bot. So
nice.
Really funny. Yeah.
Jeff has this ability that sucks up all your allies and enemies that around him, and he can suck the enemies up and then teleport them into the ally base, and now the enemies can't get out, and the allies can just kill them inside their own base.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, I think I saw that on TikTok. Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, I saw that on TikTok. I was fucking dying. Yeah. All right, I'm looking forward to playing around with the mods. It kind of reminds me of like skill trees from like MMOs and stuff and ARPGs.
Yeah, exactly.
That is, I mean, I can't wait to like theory craft and create content around all that shit. I'm really hyped. Can't wait to break the game and DM you and be like, broke this. That's gonna be sick. And all right, so we got the 2 characters, we got mods. So you mentioned a new game mode based around a payload, right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
So let's get more into that.
Well, I mean, for people that are familiar with payload maps from like TF2 originally and then Overwatch, it's very similar kind of cookie cutter concept. Like we haven't reinvented the wheel on payload. It's just kind of what you would expect. You're pushing something. There's a few different checkpoints, and then there's one at the end that's the goal. For teams, if one team pushes it further than the other team, then obviously that team wins. If both teams push it to the end, then the team that pushes it to the end fastest wins. So those are the win conditions. If there's no allies near that payload for a brief period of time, it'll slowly, very, very slowly start to go backwards. So there is a bit of ability for the enemy team to regain some ground. And then if you are near that payload, at the moment, if you're near the payload as an ally, it will slightly heal you. It'll provide a very, very faint healing effect. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of very cookie cutter when it comes to payload.
I have a quick question for you guys, right? I love that game mode, by the way. I was a big fan of it in TF2, and you know, I didn't really play much Overwatch, but I play a lot of TF2, and I really enjoy Payload. For Nyan Heroes specifically, how are you guys going about the maps when it comes to Payload? Is it going to be like maps are going to be specifically designed for that game mode, or are the current maps going to have some type of modification to fit the game mode a little bit better? The only reason I'm asking is because the movement in Nyan Heroes is so unique, right? So I'm almost wondering like how that's like, have you guys thought about that, like map layout for that specific game mode, you know, or are you going to keep it the same and see how it goes based on player feedback?
It was level design is probably one of our biggest challenges when making levels that suit our movement, because our movement is, you know, we've obviously haven't left anything back. We haven't held back when it comes to our movement, but that makes it really, really difficult for our level designers to create levels that kind of, you know, provide clarity during combat, because, you know, our movement is so crazy that anyone can go anywhere given enough time. So yeah, we with the added challenge of Payload, we decided that we would just create a new level for Payload, because it's really hard to kind of reverse engineer and just shoehorn in a Payload game mode with our existing levels. And usually also with Payload levels that you see in other games, it's usually a lot larger and a lot more sort of, it's longer and more linear, as opposed to other game modes like Control the Point, which is usually smaller, because you don't need a huge map for that, because there's only one central point that people tend to gather around. But yeah, in Payload, you often find very large linear maps, and that was another challenge. We just had to create a really large map. And that took a lot of resources and a lot of time and a lot of back and forth with art and level design. But yeah, we're really happy with sort of where we're at the moment. Still a lot of work to do, but it's looking great. The game mode is feeling great, and hopefully there aren't too many game breaking issues from a level design standpoint.
Well, and that's where the playtesting come into place, right? Like that's where you're gonna get all that feedback from. But I'm super happy that you guys went with the route of creating something custom for the game mode, right? Because I think that's gonna help it a ton. I think players are used to that game mode, have the expectations of a progressive map, right, where you're like getting into certain checkpoints, you know, you battle it out for a little bit, then you continue progressing as you're pushing that load into the next part of the map, right? And that map just keeps getting bigger and bigger as you get those checkpoints until you reach the final one, right? So like I think that's going to be a really cool dynamic for Nion coming into. Is Payload coming in season 3 or the following season? I may have missed that.
No, it's coming out in season 3, so you guys will be able to test it out.
Hell yeah, I'm super hyped for that. That's gonna be really cool to see the dynamic on that. I'm super excited to see what the movement is gonna look like, because like you mentioned in Nion, you were able to get into some interesting spots if you play around enough with movement in there, you know, and like the mashing the jumps with the wall running and stuff like that. So it's gonna be really interesting to see that in a game mode like Payload. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and a quick follow up to that: is it going to be a separate playlist, or is it going to be all in one playlist, and you're just going to be one game mode to the next? Like, is it just going to be random, or
it's just going to be random in one playlist? But if you are hosting a custom match, then you'll be able to pick which one you want to play.
Oh, so we have custom matches.
Oh, we're getting custom matches?
Oh shit, yeah.
Oh shit.
That was just like casually announced, by the way. So I have a quick question on that now that we know that we have custom. So for those that want to explore the map and like try and test out new areas to explore to like get a higher advantage, or like just, I guess you could also say to find new exploits as well.
Theater mode.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. I actually want you to ask that next, but will there be like availability to like do custom servers without filling a lobby, or will you have to fill a lobby with a certain amount of people?
I think we're making it so that you need at least 2 people, but that should be easy to find, right? Like you can just queue up with one other person and then go into a match. And if you guys want to just kind of run around and not kill each other and just kind of explore the map, I think that's totally viable in customs.
Cool. And then we can also do duels too. So if like people got beef on internet, you can just turn on some Nyan Heroes.
1v1s are definitely going to be a thing in our group.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I mentioned the theater mode, right? Because of what Hado was mentioning. Because I think implementing some type of like free movement, like type of like mechanic into the game where I can just go in and move around the map just to explore like certain spots, certain angles, just like the layout of the map overall, right? And it also calls for like the opportunity for some really cool content ideas. You know, if you can go in and have a free range movement and get some cool shots, some cinematic shots, you know, it adds on to like the idea of people creating more montages and stuff like that when it comes to content. So it'll be really cool to see that implemented in the game at one point, but I'm just excited that you guys are going forward with costumes. That's going to be really cool.
All right, we got custom lobbies. Fucking the theater mode isn't confirmed or anything, by the way, chat.
No. Yeah, that's just me wishful thinking.
Yeah.
We're working on it, by the way, but it won't be in season. It won't be in this upcoming season. Hopefully, the one after.
Oh,
all right,
let's
cool,
go.
Cool.
Let's go.
So theater mode potentially in season 4. All right.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
We need to have an episode of Wrecked where we do like 1v1s and we do theater mode, like all that good stuff.
Oh yeah,
awesome. Great. It's gonna be great.
Nyan's the one shooter that I'm very, very confident in. Like,
oh, Mizzy, real quick, I have a really quick follow up. So I want to know, Max, because some people say Nyan, some people say Nion, right? What would you say is the correct way? Just like people say GIF and GIF, what is the correct way to say your game?
I don't want to give a cop out answer, but they're both viable. So when I talk to like Westerners, Western audience, I will say Nyan because it feels like it runs off the tongue a little better. But technically, it should be Nyan, which is the Japanese word for meow.
Ha!
He said it right again, man. It's like the Carney situation. For the longest time, we were all calling him Kearney, and Missy was the only one calling him right the whole time.
Cloudz, do I see a cat next to you? Am I tripping?
This?
No, the other side. There's like a dark figure moving.
That's my wife, bro.
That's Nat,
man.
She's playing.
That's her chair.
She's playing the Sims 4 right now. So,
bro, whenever like the chair's moving, I saw some eyes, dude. I'm like tripping. Oh, it's the reflection. Okay, I see it.
All right.
Also, I forgot a couple people earlier. What's up, Sersky? What's up, Jave? Or should I say Jave? His real name's Jave, but everyone loves calling him Jave. It drives me crazy.
Jave.
Ramen was good. Ramen is our resident furry. For those of you that don't know,
resident furry.
He's Catalyst dedicated OG furry. So and we got Cade in the chat. What's good, Cade? All right, man. So I pretty much had the same question as Cloudz, right? Creating the new map to assist the payload gameplay, because the current maps are way too small. It kind of fell a little bit. So had the same concerns there. And I'm glad we can finally settle the Nyan or Nyan debate. I mix it up all the time because I'm just like, fuck it. But I always knew that the proper way to say it is Nyan.
Well, there you go. That's me for me. I've been calling it Nyan since season 1. Thanks, guy.
I've tried telling you, but it's like, I don't know. I don't like being that guy, man. It's like so.
Bro, you gotta be that guy, bro.
Cloudz. Cloudz. It's Nyan Cloudz. I'm not that guy, man. I'm not feeling like fucking Hermione from Harry Potter and shit. Like,
it's pronounced the old
oh man. All right. I'm excited for the payload mode. I didn't play TF2 a lot. I played a fuck ton of Overwatch though. Main 76, Reaper a lot, Lucio. So I'm really excited getting into the payload mode again. It's been a while since I played that game mode actively. So it'll be interesting seeing how the augments change and the movement change the gameplay dynamic though, because payload mode in Overwatch was pretty straightforward. Yeah, and I see it being way more hectic. because of like the upcoming augmentations and all the movement that's already available in the game.
Yeah, it's hella hectic. First-hand experience is wild. So it should be a lot of fun. There's a lot going on for Payload, and Nyan is very fast-paced. So yeah, excited to get the sort of first round of feedback from you guys, because actually I don't think we said it yet, but so season 3 is actually coming out. We have a tentative release date for it.
Ooh.
Which
Oh.
is...
Well, we were just gonna ask that next. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Preempted you guys. So the tentative release date is the 4th of September, but there's a early access release date for creators. So that'll be 22nd of August.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Corner, man.
18 more days,
corner, bro. Let's go.
Hell yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
Wait, we might have to play that live on the Catalyst Effect on the 25th. Bro.
That's 3 more weeks. Less than 3 weeks. Oh my god!
Yeah,
I'm fucking excited.
just everyone know that on the 25th we are actually playing Nyan Heroes. We're not going to be doing the normal
show.
Well, let's just make the announcement right now.
That's Nyan Heroes for the whole month after that.
Absolutely. This bowl of noodles.
We love Nyan, this bowl of noodles, ramen, and I love you, ramen. Thank you for being a fucking weirdo.
He also said that you love the payload. I don't know what he means by that.
Apparently it's some boomer reference, probably about semen or something. Oh shit.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
But all right. So opening September 4th, potentially 3 days before my birthday. Coincidence? I think not. You're welcome, guys. It's actually my birthday present that I'm sharing with all of you.
Let's go. I appreciate it, man. That's what you're supposed to do on birthdays, is actually gift people.
Spread the love. Spread the love, man. All right. So so now we know the ideal, we have an idea of when it's coming out. Less than 3 weeks. Let's fucking go. How many beta tests do you see yourself doing before you just open up the game?
You mean like live release?
Yeah, like an open beta, you know?
Open beta, yeah. I think we'll probably need another. So, not including this one that's coming up, we probably need another 1 or 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not like I don't want it to be this crazy drawn out. You know, I know there's always this thought of like, oh yeah, we want to make it perfect and things like that. But you know, the pace that we are moving at right now in the studio is just insane. And this is something that I've been trying to sort of steer the studio towards for the past 2.5 years. And it's not always easy because coming from traditional games industry where most of our devs come from, this is not the way that games usually are developed, because usually they will get a lot of time to iterate on a lot of different things. And in some ways that's a good thing because you can kind of test out 20 different abilities and pick the best one. But for us, sometimes, you know, I kind of just, and this is what I say to the team as well, is like, you don't need to create 20 different iterations if the first one is really good or the second one is really good. Like there's a point at which you don't need to do it for the sake of doing it. And I think that is something that a lot of AAA studios will do. It's like they have to go through the iterations in order to feel confident that they're landing on the right thing. But sometimes there's a gut feeling element of it. And I think this is where the indie studios come in a little bit more, where they're doing it because they love it. They really want to kind of inject their heart and soul into the game, and they can just feel if something is good or not. And we're trying to do a lot more of that. We're trying to use our gut feel rather than spending all of this money and time on just iterating something, you know, to oblivion, and then having this kind of analysis paralysis around which one is the best, and then finally, you know, landing on one, you know, 6 months later. You know, usually when you ask a studio how long to make a character, they'll say like, you know, potentially a year or more. Or at least 6 months, but we've been able to make 2 new ones in the span of, you know, less than 2 months so far.
Yeah,
and they feel great, and a lot of it is based on gut feel. So this is kind of our development style.
I like that. You know, at Catalyst we have a similar mentality. Obviously, we're not building a game, but with everything we do within the org, it's more or less like just ship it and let the results
Yeah.
speak for themselves, and we iterate off of that. And for those of you that don't know, Max isn't like your traditional game developer. I believe you work in the medical field prior to this, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Whoa, what?
He was a surgeon, I'm pretty sure.
That's
Or
crazy.
something like that. Yeah. Not
yeah.
to
Mizzy's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's sick because I always said that felt like the devs that really get Web3 pacing are people that don't come from traditional game development because they don't have the same like processes that traditional game developers would have. And we're kind of seeing that play out with Nyan here, where we're experiencing someone that is just kind of understanding the pace of the industry and trying to meet it at that pace. And hats off to you guys, man, because that is an insane pace to move at. And what I do love about talking to you when you talk about Nyan is all the movements, everything that you do comes from a place of fandom, right? You're always referencing another game or something that you really enjoy from somewhere. So it's just really a gamer that loves a lot of games, putting all his love for multiple genres and multiple games into one. Which is very relatable to people like us in comparison to someone that's like, yes, I made my first video game when I was like 5. And we're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, could you talk a little more about that process? Like, because it reminds me a lot of how I used to do fashion, which was I used to go to all my favorite music artists and from like the past and the present and kind of just like look around and use them as my muses for like the designs that I would come up with the companies that I worked with, right? So I would love to know more about that process, like the unorthodox building style that you guys have been going through, and how have like the devs on your team received it? Because obviously, like I know how our industry receives it. You ask anyone what's the top 5 game in Web3 gaming, 9 out of 10 times Nyan's in the top 3. So
Yeah, I mean, so like this game development kind of arc of my life is technically the third arc. So the first one was medicine and surgery. I did sort of upper gastrointestinal surgery for about 7 years after doing a 6-year medical degree. So yeah, it was a different world. I was operating on people, I was taking out gallbladders, taking out bowel cancers. And then the second half was when I went into the creative industry, where I was a creative director for brands. So I worked with Google, Samsung, Netflix, did a lot of creative work, self-taught completely. I was in that industry for about 7 to 8 years as well. Started up my own creative agency as well. And then this is kind of like the third arc. So I've learned a lot from all of my combined prior experiences. I think from medical side, I'm obviously a deeply analytical person. I like to research. I like to read what people actually say and think. And from the creative side, that was when I was able to just get down and dirty into a lot of my gaming roots that I had when I was in high school. So for me, I just think if you're a game director, if you're a director in any kind of game studio, and you're not actively playing games, and you're not actively researching what the market is saying about games that are coming out, new games that are coming out, whether people like it, whether people don't, what do they like about it, what don't they like about it. If you're not doing that as a director in a studio, then you're going to miss the mark. And there's all of these, like, I would say, career executives, right, at game studios that are just completely separated from the industry itself. Like they're great on the business side, but they have no connection with the gaming side, and they're making all these decisions that ultimately affect the gaming studios and the direction of the game, which doesn't really make sense to me. So I still play a lot of games. I've been playing a lot of the new games that come out. I've been testing out Marvel Rivals. There's this new one coming out that came out called Mecha Break, which is really interesting. X-Defiant, you guys I know playing that a lot. Didn't manage to get any access to Supervive, but I've been watching it. The most important thing is I've been also looking at people's opinions. Concord came out, got absolutely roasted, and for me it's not, I wasn't celebrating that or anything, but when people are angry about a game, that is when myself as a director, I can get the most insight as to why are people angry about the game. Like, what is the thing that they're doing that is so disturbing to everyone that they don't like, and ensure that we absolutely don't go in that direction. So those are just kind of some ramblings about how I like to approach game development. I do it from a personal experience. I draw from mechanics that I really enjoyed from other games, as well as I'm reading online what other people like. So it's not just about me. I'm not creating a game for myself. I'm seeing what are some of the mechanics that people really loved in other games that maybe I played and I didn't appreciate, but trying to sort of understand what makes people tick and what gives people that fantasy and that power in fulfillment in playing games like Nyan. So that's my end, and then on the dev side, there's a lot of to be honest with you, they're great now, and the team is working like a well-oiled machine. But it's taken a lot of time to slowly change the workflows and the pipelines into something that is fitting with the vision that I have around how we work. Because it's not just about the game vision. The studio itself is a living organism, and it has its own processes and operations that are required for it to run efficiently. And so, there's the game vision, but there's also the studio vision of how we operate, how we design, how do we, deliver, and what timelines do we want to keep to, and what do we need to stick to? What can we afford to do? What can we not afford to do? And so there's been a lot of back and forth with this year, but I think, right now, everyone is very much aligned. They were initially very skeptical about the accelerated timelines, but they've seen the product that has come out on the other end. They've seen the reviews that people like yourselves have been giving out. They've been seeing all the attention on social media, the feedback on Discord, and the results have spoken for themselves. So now a lot of their reluctance or their skepticism has turned into, well, it seems to be working. So I guess we will roll with it and we will see where we end up, which is why our pre-alpha was so successful, not just from a player perspective, but from an internal perspective. Like, they've actually seen the fruits of our process, and they are now, I guess, more confident in it as well. So that's been really great.
Man, that sounds like so much fun. That sounds, just that early culture where you're still finding yourselves and really establishing how things are going to be, and finding success in the things that you had conviction in before you had a reason to have conviction in them.
Yeah,
that feeling is unlike anything else in the world, man.
Been there a couple of times. It's great. when you zoom out, you can say that. When you're in the trenches every day and you're trying to kind of like feel like sometimes you're banging your head against a wall or trying to squeeze like water out of a brick, it can be frustrating at times. But when you zoom out and you look at how we started and where we are now, it is absolutely extremely rewarding.
Man, okay. So how do the traditional developers on your team handle the fact that there's like a token and like a Web3 component, right?
That's a great question.
I'm interested in hearing that perspective, because we get to talk to the CEOs and the game devs and all that. We hear their perspective, but this is the first time I think I've ever asked, like, how do other people on your team feel, and what has your process been like, right? So I'm particularly interested in like how they've received the token and the Web3 side of it, and if they even care that much, or if they're just like, fuck it, like, you handle that, we'll handle this,
Yeah, I mean, it's basically there's two camps. There's the camp that doesn't really like. Obviously, everyone is aware of it, and for a lot of them, it doesn't really impact them in their workflow. For example, an artist, doesn't really have anything to do with the token side, so they can continue to do their work without any impact whatsoever. So there are people that kind of know it exists and it doesn't affect them, so they are fine with it, but they don't actively engage with it on a day-to-day basis. And then there's the other cohort, which are, I guess, a bit more curious. They're more excited about the opportunities that a token has for the game itself, and this is more prevalent with the design team and some of the more business the business side of the team as well, because obviously that affects them more. So recently, actually, we hired a lead economy and monetization designer, and for them, obviously, they're really passionate about it, and that's because it's intrinsic to the work that they need to deliver. And actually, this is a bit of alpha too, because we haven't announced this hire publicly, but the lead economy and monetization systems designer, he's actually the director of economy and monetization from CCP for EVE Online. So,
Oh shit! The only economy to fucking figure it out.
Yeah, like literally.
For those
Yeah.
of you guys that don't know about EVE Online's economy, it had been trashed into the fucking ground, and then they brought in a new team to kind of figure it out while it was still open within the game. And it's like one of the only games in history to actually have a successful economy come back. So that is insane news. Okay, all right.
Yeah, this guy was actually that team. 'Cause
Wow.
he came in when it was broken, and he led and reworked the entire system. Well, not the entire thing, because a lot of the stuff was already built. So he worked within the confines of what was already built to revamp the economy, and did it very successfully. So yeah, there was only one director of economy and monetization at CCP for EVE Online, and this was him. His name is Asimarcus. So super excited to be working with him. He's obviously very excited about Web3. He's excited about Nyan Heroes. He had a look at what we were doing and what we were building. He had a look at the materials online when we were kind of reaching out to him, and he was really impressed. Obviously he comes from Web2, and his bar is a Web2 based bar, and he looked at our game and thought, yeah, this has potential. And he was excited to be able to build a economy and monetization system from scratch, basically, which is not what he was able to do for EVE Online. He did a great job, obviously, but there are a lot of things that he felt like could still be improved if he was there from the ground floor, which he has the opportunity to do with us.
I'm mind blown. Holy fucking shit! Like, I don't. Wow, that's crazy. Because that's the one person I always reference when it comes to like successful economies in games. When people are fighting me on like fixing economies within Web3 games, I'm always like, dude, they did it in EVE. So to actually hear that you guys are going to be working with that very same person is crazy. And how do you feel? And not to talk too much about the token, but we do have some audience members that are interested. Like, how do you feel about the token launch, the health of the token now? And is there like any utility that we can anticipate?
Yeah, I mean, I think the launch is what it is. We kind of launched at a time which was maybe not the best, and there were also some issues around the airdrop itself. So it's kind of
whatever.
like,
Best memes ever that I've done in Web3 gaming.
Yeah,
I don't
was
give
some
a
good
fuck.
memes out of that.
If you don't like the launch, you don't like culture. All right, continue.
So, obviously what's done is done, and we have to kind of look forward and ensure that, we're building for the future. And the main thing is to ensure that whatever system that we design for the token, it's sustainable for the long term. I think there's a lot of things that you can do with the token that are short-term wins. But ultimately, if you kind of zoom out and you look at, well, what is the point of doing something like this, then there's just a lot of question marks. So for example, there's been a lot of people who say, well, why don't you just have staking? And it's like, we can have staking. In fact, we've built the back end for the staking mechanic already. We've got the smart contracts ready. We can do that. But what's actually the point of it right now? Like, you could stake for more tokens. It's like, put tokens.
Yeah, there's nothing to do with
it. But there's nothing to do with it, right? So ultimately, it's a short term. It would be a short term gain, potentially. Maybe not. Maybe there won't even be a significant gain. You don't know. But the goal behind something like that would be, okay, there's a short-term benefit, but if there's no intrinsic utility behind that, and there's no relationship to the game, after the year or so, or 9 months or so time period where the tokens start being delivered and the ROI starts being seen, like, that's just all going to fizzle out, and in fact will be worse after that. So one of the things that I've been working with Asimarcus on, and he's only joined us for about two weeks or so, so a lot of it's still kind of catching up, getting up to speed on what we've got so far. But the goal is not for this season, because he only joined recently, but hopefully maybe for the next season, we are starting to think about, well, how does the token fit into the grand scheme of monetization? I published a very, very high level Medium article towards the end of, I think, season 2 around how I view token and monetization, ensuring that it is sustainable, ensuring that there is utility, and how that feeds into the traditional Web 2 monetization loop, because ultimately that's who we are targeting, broadly speaking, to gain mass adoption. We're not going to find mass adoption, at least quickly, anytime soon in Web3, because the player base is just not there. I mean, you guys are amazing. There's a lot of amazing communities, and you guys are grinding and you guys are hustling, and we absolutely have to support the Web3 creators. But at the same time, we know that there's a big ocean out there that we need to capture as well. So we kind of have to, I guess, divide our efforts. And so Web 2 monetization is going to be absolutely critical. And the question is, how can we tie that in to Web 3 and make them symbiotic and mutually kind of beneficial to each other? That's what Asimarcus is going to be building with us. And what we don't want to do is pigeonhole us into a system like what happened with EVE Online, where they just did something very quickly early on for the sake of it, but it didn't make sense in the grander scheme of things. Because once, the token's obviously live. Once we start building, I guess, mechanics around that token, because it's on chain, because it's Web3, there's not a lot that we can do around that after the fact. Once it's out there, and we are kind of soft committing ourselves to a particular pathway. So we have time before the game launches to make sure that it's absolutely kind of watertight and sustainable for the long term. So we don't want to rush it now. We want to make sure that we do it right from the beginning. So hopefully we'll have some things to share after season 3 around how we want to incorporate more utility. We do have this staking backend, and we want to incorporate utility into the staking and tie it into the gameplay, tie it into progression in the game, and tie it into actually driving value for people that are doing it from a gameplay perspective, not just from an ROI perspective.
I'd love to hear it. I mean, adding Asimarcus to your team again, cannot be stressed how huge that actually is. But with that, I'm gonna do a quick commercial break here, and we'll get back to the conversation because I need 2 minutes to process all that shit in my mind.
Let's say a shout out to our sponsors real quick.
Are you ready to level up your gaming experience? Meet Player Gaming Blockchain, the ultimate gaming protocol on Avalanche. Player is truly multi-chain compatible, enabling all crypto gamers to play together no matter their wallets or network. With the Player ID, enjoy seamless logins and personalized experience, while the Mirror Wallet technology adds an extra layer of security. Game developers can easily integrate NFTs and in-game tokens with Player's plug-and-play technology. Earn rewards through Game Stake and explore 6 playable games with more on the way. Thank you to Player Gaming Blockchain for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the show.
All right. Shout out to Players for being the sponsor of the show, man. Thank you for supporting the show. Make sure you guys check them out and their ecosystem. But let's get back into it, man. We got more alpha to unravel here.
Real quick. Addis is in the building. He is absolutely mind blown. He says, "I'm mind blown right now. This is huge for Nion." He also said, "This is the best game interview I've ever heard on X ever." Not gonna lie. You're welcome. Shout outs to you, my friend.
Hey, shout out, Addis.
And Siege, sorry, Quantum. I said Siege. It says Quantum on the freaking screen. Quantum said, "I love this ad." Thank you, Quantum, for your support.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate all the support, guys.
Thanks for the flowers, Addis. I know if you say it, you mean it, so I really appreciate that. Yeah, dude, it's honestly, I wasn't expecting to get this much alpha today. I'm a little mind blown. Yeah, if you had told me that I was gonna wake up today and hear that the guy that fixed the EVE Online economy was gonna be name dropped as someone working with Nion, I would have been like, nah. So that's very promising for our industry that someone like that's even interested. So it can't be stressed how big of an actual reveal that is. And I guess, to segue into some lighthearted conversation, before we talk a little more about Nyan, what are there any Web3 projects that have caught your eye? Like, is there anything that you've actually been following within this space, or are you really just looking at Web2? Oh, and by the way, I got you on Supervive access for the next playtest. So,
oh my god. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
You should have just told me.
Go.
You should have just told me you needed it, man. We got you.
Man, appreciate it. It's all about who you know, I guess.
True that.
Taste to know people. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I followed a lot of Web3 games leading up to our pre-alpha because one of my main goals was to make sure that whatever we were putting out there was contextually like at least as good as what was already out there. What I don't want to do is put forward a product in a market that people say, well, you're you're 5 years behind everyone else. That's not a good outcome. So I did do a lot of following before pre-alpha, and I think obviously really happy with the reception that we got, and it seems like we were publishing something that was at least on parity with what was out there, or maybe sometimes better. I've tried to keep up with a little bit of Web3 stuff lately, but to be honest with you guys, as you said, Mizzy, the bar for us is Web2 games. We know that in the space as a whole, not just for us, no Web3 game or no Web3 studio is going to be able to succeed unless the product that they produce is at least on parity with some of the, I would say, AA games in the Web2 industry. If we can't even ship something that is on parity with that, then there's no way we can expect to onboard, mass traditional gamers, because they're going to look at the game and they don't hold back, right? Like, they don't pull their punches on social media. If there is something that is rubbish, they will outrightly just say it was rubbish. And not only that, they will jump on the band train. They will build that bandwagon and they'll all jump on it, and they'll all dump on that game collectively, and you'll see it in your Steam reviews. So if we can't build something that caters to the mass audience, there's no hope for us or any studio in Web3. So that's what I've been looking at, which is why also I've been playing a lot of these closed betas in Web2, because I want to get a feel for what that barrier, that bar is. So there are a few games, of course, that I'm still following in Web3. I think one game that I've always kind of had my eye on is oh god, I'm gonna make an embarrassment of myself. I've totally forgotten it. It'll come back.
Give us the genre, maybe we'll help.
Yeah,
it's the oh god. No, I hate this.
Man, it's completely gone, man. No, if it comes back, it will come back as soon as we move forward. Watch.
Well, I mean, while we're talking, oh, go ahead.
No,
we're talking about the
Web2
side of things.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, you guys had been featured in Game Rant, right?
Oh yes, that was extremely exciting. And
dude, that was crazy for me. Yeah, to see. I was just like, hold up. Do they know Nyan's a Web3 game?
I don't think the person knew. Like I'm not sure. To be honest, they didn't mention any of the Web3 stuff, but they put us in the same article that was like, is 2024 the year of the hero shooter? And they talked about some of the issues that Overwatch 2 had been facing, and saying that maybe this is opening up a gap in the market for new hero shooters to come in. And they referenced Concord, they referenced the Valve game Deadlock, they referenced Marvel Rivals, and they mentioned Nyan Heroes. And I was like, holy shit, this is super exciting. I think they saw a Web2 streamer playing Nyan Heroes, and they were like, man, this looks interesting. So they just decided to throw us in with the rest of the bunch, which is crazy, because it's like Valve, NetEase, Blizzard, Riot Games also in the list, and then there's like little old Nyan Heroes just chilling there. Like,
hey man, word of mouth is the best way to spread a product. So I mean,
no, I will state this, Max. You guys are probably one of the most known Web3 games in traditional gaming that I've seen around in the space, because I've talked to multiple peoples in Discourse are just like Web2 games, or just actually like when I went to one of my dispensaries, I was picking up my meds and stuff, and when I walked in, the two guys that were working the counter were both gamers, and we started talking, and they were like waiting for access to Nyan Heroes. So I think you guys did a
Are
great
you
job at.
serious? That's great.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. That's like literally the rest of the guys. I told the rest of the guys as soon as I came back home, I was like, "Yo, I literally just met two people at a random dispensary that are fans of Nyan Heroes." You know, so I think you guys did a great job at like starting to break that barrier of reaching that mass market, and it's because of the way you are approaching it, right? Like which you were mentioning earlier, right? Which is comparing yourself to like meeting the baseline of the Web2 games, right? And like making sure that that level of expectations from the gamer's perspective is met, because you're absolutely right. Like I feel like the mass market, they're not gonna hold back when they're opinionated about something, you know, specifically a game, and you don't want to fall under that category in Steam where your game has a bunch of negative reviews, because that does do a lot to the discoverability of your game, right? Like if people see it on the Steam marketplace and they see like 100K negative reviews on it, you know, that definitely does something to the clickable rate of like downloading the game and stuff like that. So I'm glad you guys are approaching it the way you are. And just to shout out some people real quick in the comment, while Shady saying, "Damn, I'm late, brother. You're never too late. Welcome to the show, and thank you for watching us over on Twitch. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you know, you're get ready for more alpha, man, because Max is
You are kind of late though. There's like an hour's worth of alpha before
Yeah.
you put up.
yeah, there is.
Like,
But listen, you can go back to it, man. You can go back to it. And
I would suggest rewatching that shit because it's worth
absolutely, absolutely worth it. Absolutely
Yeah, watch the
worth
VOD,
it,
man.
The first 20 minutes of the podcast were insane. So definitely go watch that.
Yeah, and then it carries off though. Like, yeah.
I remember the game, by the way. It's Wildcard.
Oh,
Wildcard.
Wildcard. Yeah.
Yeah, that one
Oh.
was the one in Web3 that caught my eye, probably the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've played it. It's really good. Shout outs to them. I wish it was like more available, I guess, but I have nothing. I obviously there's constructive criticism, but there was nothing about the playtest that we had. Like Hado was there, I believe. Cloudz, were you there? Were you there on that playtest?
For Wildcard?
Yeah,
No,
because
it
we
was
had
at a
a.
time that I couldn't make it.
Yeah, that's what it was. And
Wildcard's
we
the
were
one Web3 game I have not been able to play since it came out, bro. Since it's been
we
like
we
a
we
thing.
walked away pretty impressed. You know, I would say.
Yeah, it looks really polished and it's unique, which always interests me because I'm not like I'm not calling anyone out, but I'm just not a huge fan of games that are just very much like copy pastes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though some would say that about us, which
I don't
I
don't think so. Like anyone that says Nyan Heroes is copy paste hasn't played it, because once you play it, any type of like hero shooter game before it doesn't feel the same. Like they're very different in mechanics and movement.
I would say with the
play
movement
style.
alone is
Yeah.
pretty unique, man. I mean, people
Yeah.
can argue like maybe like Titanfall, you know, with the movement, but it's not even
Well,
close.
you
Like,
could
the
even
movement was-
argue. You could even argue like without items, it could be like paladins, but even that is very different too. But I don't think that Nyan Heroes is like a copycat at all, because like you said, the movement, but the entire concept of the game is based around the characters, which
Yes.
is part of the movement, and I think that's like speaks volumes how it's so freaking different.
Let's also not forget the amount of details that you guys have put into the game, man. Because like I remember when we were talking back in season 2, one of the things we touched on was the amount of details you guys put into like map design and making sure like caster reference all throughout the maps. Like in that one Egyptian map, you know, where like the casts are all over the temples, right? Like that. I think little details like that is what makes games unique and their design unique. And you guys spend the time doing that. So I don't think there's any possible way that people can say that you guys are a copy paste of any games. You can definitely see inspiration from different games and stuff like that, but I would say you guys are in a category of your own at this point.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, Wild. I think my coworkers on the wild card team is sick of me talking about Nyan Heroes. Listen, man, I know people are sick of me talking about Nyan Heroes because everyone in this fucking industry wants to jump into the next game that comes out and have everyone be super excited about that shit. And I'm just like, but I really like Nyan Heroes. Like, why do I don't have to jump into a new bias like every month? Like,
No,
I have
listen,
the one game that I like. I'm cool with that.
I'm gonna say it right here, right now. Not Nyan Heroes is my favorite shooter in all of Web3, and basically, like when it comes to Web2 games, is probably like I'm more of an FPS per player. I will say I enjoy more FPS per, but I would say if Nyan Hero was out, I would Xify and a Nyan Hero every single day.
Oh yeah, in my rotation of game. But Addis said Max cones. Let's go. I mean,
Get
look,
outta here.
we had a long slew of Lyra games, that 22 and 23, and disappeared for reasons. So good call.
You know what's interesting about the Lyra meta is, you know, for development, like Lyra, it's a I guess packaged game asset repo or whatever that fits in with Unreal 5, and a lot of people can just kind of take it and create like a game very quickly, right? But that's not really, I don't personally see that as a huge issue if you were using it as a bridge to build your own game. Because one of the things that I think is very valuable in game development is to be able to quickly put together a proof of concept or a rough kind of demo. And this isn't for investors. If you're using it for investors, then you're doing it wrong. But if you're using it to kind of get your game off the ground, get your development team into the game and being able to play it and get your hands dirty and using it to iterate, then that's completely normal. And I think a lot of the times that happens, it's not necessarily with Lyra, but it's with, you know, other asset packs on Unreal. For example, you might get your third-person shooter pack, you might get your first-person shooter pack, you might get your RPG pack or whatever. That in itself, I don't have an issue with. I think that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal to stand something up and start testing. The question is, what are you going to do with it afterwards? Are you going to change it to suit your needs? Or is your end goal just to take that and then swap out the assets, don't change anything else under the hood, and try and ship it as your own game? The second issue is more problematic. The first one is completely normal and as far as I'm aware, is done very often, even in, you know, big AAA games. Like they will take a pack, they'll get something, they'll get like a proof of concept running, and then they'll eventually rework all of the systems in that pack to suit what they want to do with the game. But it's very difficult to playtest something when you're just a square that's floating around and you're shooting another square and there's nothing else to kind of show for it. You want that visual feedback. So that's kind of like a bit of I guess a take from my side. I don't see it as a problem. The only problem is, what are you planning on doing with it? So for us, for example, we used Lyra in the very beginning to kind of get the game off the ground and start some of our own play tests. But the one thing that I think screwed a lot of the other studios using Lyra is a bitch to work with. It is not user-friendly. It is not designer-friendly.
Very buggy.
It's very buggy. You need to do a lot to kind of even just use it. And it's not very user-friendly from a designer perspective. So that's probably why a lot of the Lyra-based games that maybe wanted to try and change it up, they just couldn't. It was, in my opinion, it was probably a technical barrier for them to be able to change that game. So for us, you know, we have a lot of great devs that are very good at what they do. So we basically took Lyra, and we've been even now, where like initially we swapped out a lot of the systems that were initially default in Lyra with our own systems. We had to rework them from the ground up, and so now, you know, a lot of them are completely our own. There were some of them that are still based on some Lyra things, and it's not bad. Like, for example, if you have a working animation system that is good off the shelf, then there's no problem with using it if it suits your needs. For us, yeah, we've completely kind of revamped most, if not all, of the Lyra systems to be our own now. The last one was our hit registration system. So for you guys who may or may not be aware, Lyra is basically client driven, which means that all of your bullets, your hits, your abilities, your timers, your reloads, your movement speed, it's all client driven, which opens itself up to a lot of cheats. One of the things that we did after season 2 was we completely revamped that backend system that was initially Lyra based in an effort that we call clock sync. So we applied clock sync to our game now. So now everything that's related to combat is server driven, which means now people can't modify their clients to trick the game into saying that, I'm hitting my shots or I'm, moving at this speed or blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
And
that's
ultimately,
amazing.
Yeah, that's what everyone has to do in order to make a competitive game that is free from cheaters and blah, blah, blah. So that's what we were able to do between season 2 and season 3. You won't really feel it on the front end, hopefully, fingers crossed, but there was a lot of back end work that was required to do that. And that would have been upfront cost for, for example, a small studio, an indie studio with maybe say 10 to 20 devs. If you didn't use a pre-existing system like Lyra or any other system off the shelf, then you would have to build that upfront. And that took us basically 2 months of pure kind of dev work from multiple people to actually get that system in. So I do see benefit from it, but it purely depends on how you use it and what your intent is. If your intent was just to use it as it is and do an asset swap, then yeah, that's obviously not good.
Bad intentions. Yeah. I do want to hop to some comments real quick. There you are, Wild Shady, talking about S4 League again. Man, you're making me super nostalgic over here. Love that game. I miss it so much every day. But he was comparing Nyan Heroes to Guns, the duel. I'm not sure about that one. Never played that before. And S4 League. Both games haven't had any similar remakes in the last 20 years. WW call out. He also mentioned, my buddy says, I need Nyan Heroes back because I play Overwatch better after spending hours on Nyan Heroes. That's kind of hilarious.
Oh shit, man! All right, so as far as the Lyra clones, it's great to have that additional context to what building with it is like, and the troubles that people have when they go into that initial project thinking it's going to be easier than what it is. And also great hearing about the hit registry changes there. That should be huge for preventing cheaters and things like that. Which makes a fuck ton of sense when you have an open, like a live token.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you want to be. Have vulnerability to in any kind of way. We're getting close to rounding off the show and coming to a close, but I have 2 more questions that I wanted to ask, and then open floor for the guys to follow up after that in case there's anything else they want to ask or anything you want to jump in with, Max. So my first of the 2 questions is something that I used to do in fashion a lot for additional context of where the question's coming from, is I would find references outside of our industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to actually use games a lot in my fashion design. Because I knew what costumes I like, shout out Tekken for basically making a career for me. I can never be more grateful. But what is like a tech, an idea, or something outside of gaming that has, outside of cats, obviously, that has heavily influenced your design in like Nion or that building process?
I would have to say it's probably anime or manga.
Okay.
Just because so much of our inspiration is drawn from Evangelion. It's kind of a similar vertical, I guess, because it's still entertainment and there's still like this kind of over the top abilities and power fantasies and whatnot. But yeah,
what's your top 3 favorite animes?
Ooh.
Oh god. Okay, so Neon Genesis is number 1, hands down. It doesn't. I don't care what anyone else says. It's number 1 for me. Number 2 is Hunter x Hunter.
Good.
Number 3, I'd probably just say Death Note.
Oh,
That's a
Not even
beautiful
mad.
list. No argument.
Yeah, I'm not even mad about that.
Take a potato chip and eat it.
I'm not
Yeah.
even mad about that top 3, man. Yeah.
That's a great top
The
3.
Shimigamis love apples.
Yeah. I feel like we all have Death Note in at least our top like 5 in this squad.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Except the IRL version they did.
Yeah, no one talks about that. We don't talk
And
about
the second, we don't talk about the second leg of Death Note either. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we love you. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
and then the second question, this is more of like a market kind of thing. VC investing is up 94% in Q1 of this year. Do you think money is still flowing back into Web3 gaming? Is this a good time to release a project for any upcoming devs? No, we're not launching a game, I promise.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I could feel that was the case in Q1. I don't know if that's still the case currently in this quarter, just because, well, firstly, I'm not actively engaged in those conversations, so I've got less of a pulse on that side of the market. But I do think that for Web3 at the moment, we're in a bit of an unknown territory, at least when it comes to the broader markets. I think everyone's kind of wondering like what's going to happen, because we're in this point where there's some people who just think it's going to go all the way down to Goblin Town, but then there's others that just say that this is the final kind of down before we go to the promised land, right? So I think there's a lot of unknowns, and I think because of that, people don't like unknowns in VC land. They like something. They like following trends. So my guess is right now there's less, I guess, appetite for it. But of course, if you're building something that has legs, and you're sort of been able to stand up a proof of concept, or you've been able to get some early traction metrics, then I don't think there's anything that would say that you shouldn't be actively seeking out VC investment now, because if the product is good, it will stand on its own. So yeah, I don't think you should worry too much about the markets if you're confident in the product. On the other hand, if the markets were to kind of recover and bounce from here, I actually think that starting a project now would be pretty good, because you can kind of start building your community at the lows, or whatever you want to call it, like when sentiment is down. And typically when things go well from there, then you generate a lot of positive reinforcement from that community, because they kind of were with you when things weren't so good, and then they're obviously excited to continue to build with you when things are good. Whereas if you start something at the top of a market, that's usually when you burn your community the most. So yeah, that's just an extra thought. Like, you're certainly not starting it at the worst time if you were to do it now.
Speaking of community, how has all the addicts, I mean all the gamers, been dealing with not having the game available for the last 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, we've had our fair share of people requesting like, when's the game coming out? Like, I've been trying some of these other play tests, and it's just not hitting it for me. Like, I really want to get my hands back on Nion. So yeah, we've had our fair share of people requesting it. So we're excited that we can kind of help people scratch that itch soon. So yeah, I think I don't know, what have you guys been kind of playing in Web3 land, and what sort of excited you guys? Because I've kind of haven't been able to keep updated on a lot of the playtests that are coming out.
Thank God for X Defiant. That's all I gotta say, man. X Defiant and Catnip. That's how I've been keeping my itch down from Nyan Heroes. All right, and trying my best not to let the itch get to me, man. But yeah, it's been rough, at least for me, because I'm a huge shooter player, and unfortunately in Web3, I feel like that's one of the biggest lags in the space. To find shooters that are like active, they're available, they're like somewhat optimized to a level of enjoyment. You get me? And I feel like that's how I felt with Nion last season. Like, I felt like that was the game that I had in Web3 that was like kind of like fulfilling that ish of a shooter in the space. So it's been rough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, Max. It's been rough for me. It's been rough.
All right, well, we'll try and help you out there. Soon.
Dude, hearing
weeks,
that the early test is in August is music to my ears, man. You have no idea.
Yo, hitting the chats real quick. Ask Diffie. I've been annoying him for leaks.
Oh
Shady
man,
says.
Shady's having uncontrollable ish over there, man. He hasn't been able.
Is Wild Shady? Is that Shady Shiva?
It might be. It might be.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always good to see you in our Discord, man.
Oh yeah. We also have Quantum saying this episode has made my Sunday better. You're welcome. And shout outs to you again. Thank you for the support. Thank you for pulling up. Jackie laughing her ass off over there. And yes, we do have confirmation it is Shady Shiva.
As far as Web3 games, Max, played a good amount of Meiji the last few days with Damien. But that was like in between work stuff. So we're like casually talking about work and we're like blowing each other up in Meiji. Pause. And then played a good amount of Planet Atmos. I'm sponsored by them, but I do enjoy like racing around as Iron Man. It's pretty.
Dude, what's your top record on that game?
Depends the map, but the fastest I've done on any map was 52 seconds on the Manta map, which is probably like 4th in the game.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
And you have a giveaway going on for a suit right now, right?
Yeah, yep. And then outside of Planet Atmos, a lot of Champions Ascension as well, because my little brother he really likes the game Champions, and he also really likes Nion. So he started playing Champions to make up for the fact that he couldn't play Nion, and he kind of like fell in love with that game as well. So now he has like 2 Web3 games that he can actually play, because Nion and Champions were his first 2 Web3 games. So
that's awesome.
I'm 2 for 2.
We hungry, bro.
I'm 2 for 2 on the recommendations.
All right. You guys gonna be eating good in a few weeks. Don't worry,
dude. I'll be honest. For us, there is a really big hole when, in our hearts, so to speak, when Nyan isn't around. Like, we have friends that even FUD us because they're like, "You're not in the Discord as much as you used to be. What's going on?" And we're just like, aren't you guys committed to building Catalyst? And I'm just like, yeah, we are, but now we're doing the behind the scenes shit.
Right.
So I mean, we even feel like the FUD on a community level where it's like, the enthusiasm just isn't there, guys. So, hey.
Like, damn, man, we gotta build somehow.
Well, one of the cool things that our custom lobby rework will allow gaming communities to do is just actually be able to host more tournaments and like fun like matches, I guess, because the previous custom lobby experience was god awful. Like, I'll just be honest, it was horrible.
Man, we broke the shit out of that during the Paladins.
Yeah.
Well, so the thing is, it was never intended that was never intended to host custom lobbies, and it was kind of like a last minute feature that we tried just to get in there because we knew people would want it. So we managed to get it in there, but it was broken as hell. So apologies for that.
I'll give you some insight. We were actually me and Mizzy were about to like fight this one dude because he kept on coming in and saying like, "Are you guys gonna join?" It's like, we can't. The system's not working. It's not us. And he's like, "You guys are just scared." It's like, it's not about being scared. The shit, it's not working right. Like,
skill issue.
We were so fucking mad. I ended up kicking him out of the Discord.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I kicked him out of the Paladins Discord, and then I told him, I DM'd him, and I was like, "Bro, I will not let you back into this shit. Like, Clasty's team will forfeit on your account, and I will publicly fucking roast you on Twitter." And he was like, "All right, I'll stop." Yeah, because he was on Classy's team, or should I say, Jesus Martinez.
Oh yeah.
AKA Classy Dancing, because
Classy Dancing. Yeah, he still owes
in AI Arena. He owes me that dance, bro. But
y'all gonna dance?
I beat him in our AI Arena 1v1, and he owes me a dance because he was gonna make me dance. He was gonna make me dox, and he was gonna make me dox and dance if I lost. And so,
wait, he was gonna make you dox? No wonder why you whooped his ass.
And
Of course.
the most
Yeah.
important part here is it's the dancing part, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and then he caught me in a practice lobby like one time on Nion, and one he's like, "No, we're even," and I was like, "What, bro? We were on stream. This was supposed to be a big event. You didn't deliver, but it's fine. I will find him in the end, kill his ass a bunch of times.
exactly.
So that'll be fun. But yeah, man, it's one thing I will say on the Catalyst side, Max, is we've onboarded a lot more help since the last, Nian season 2. We have like 3 new team members. Ramen is like the events coordinator for us now with the Noodle Bowls. He's brought in JK, who's killing it as a mod in Catalyst. She's really been helping us grow our
Shout
community.
out JK, man. For real.
And we've officially brought in Sersky and Quantum. So we're doing really well as a team, and it'll be great to be able to do even bigger stuff with Nian coming up in season 3.
I do
Yeah.
have a follow-up question. One last thing about Nion. I think I asked this before, but I want to ask it again. Emotes, sprays, are they coming sometime in the future? Because I think that would add to the banter.
Oh shit, we forgot to cover something. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have a question as well too, but I'll take for after Max.
Yeah, that's something I totally forgot about as well. So you guys will have emotes in season 3.
Oh, okay, there you go.
We've also incorporated a in-game ping system, so you'll be able to ping locations, objectives,
Let's go!
to retreat, attack. We won't have text comms yet. That's coming later, but we will have the ping system, so there'll be some form of in-game communication.
Yeah,
some step in the right direction. Step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Love it.
Small
Love
steps.
Love it.
Love it. I actually have one question for you, Max, too, because I remember back in season 2, we had discussed how you guys kind of wanted to keep it open for now when it came to like character selection for teams, right? And not really like lock it to a limit as to how many people could use, for example, Ghost, or like how many people could use Atlas in one team. Has there been any changes to that for season 3, or are we still keeping it the same where people can choose multiple of the same characters in one team?
Yeah, great question, actually. We came to a bit of a compromise or like a middle ground when it came to that. So what we will have in season 3 is there will be a limit, but it will be a 2-character limit. So you'll only be able to have, say, like 2 tanks on a team. You won't be able to roll out with 6 tanks kind of all leaping in the air, 6 shield. So that was kind of a compromise because ultimately, I think the goal right now is eventually we just want to have a 1-character limit. But because in season 3 coming up, we only have 6 characters, if we imposed a 1-character limit, it would basically mean that every team would be the same comp every time because everyone would have to choose 1 character.
You would be forced to, yeah.
Fair
So
point.
that would feel super samey. And so the compromise that we made was a 2-character limit. So there'll be enough diversity without having like a full team of like red dudes or like blue guys. Yeah. So
what you're saying is there's going to be even more characters.
I mean, I guess you can read it.
I mean,
yes. No, but I like that. I like that concept, man. I think you're gonna make a lot of community members happy with that balancing right there. I personally was a fan of the mayhem and seeing people play with like the same, like seeing a full team of ghosts. I thought it was hilarious. But I did see some complaints in season 2 of people complaining about like, how can you compete against 6 terrorists? Like this is ridiculous. I'm like, dude, get good. Like that's how you compete with it. But
I mean, you can throw it into customs.
Sounds like a skill. Sounds like a skill issue to me, man.
Yeah, that sounds like a skill issue. I agree with you, man. But no, super cool that you guys are keeping it to a 2-character limit for this season. I'm excited to see how that plays out. And I agree with Shady. You have to, rely on having high speed, and high-speed internet is the meta to get the character you want. I mean, listen, if you're lagging and you're playing in that McDonald's connection, you're struggling to pick your character in Nion.
But he said M.2, so he wants you to get onboard storage, not your regular. Yeah. He also said, "Can the mechs dance?" I actually want to know that too.
Can the mechs dance? Do we have any dances? I think we have 1 dance.
That would be funny though. I want to see the Atlas dance, dude. The Atlas dance would be fun stuff.
The Atlas dance. I have a feeling they're gonna dance similar to the Janais and WoW. Like the Janais and WoW had such a weird dance. Like
I don't even
because
know what you're talking about, dude.
they're similar like sizes.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I'll have to send Max that reference.
I would love like a plethora of different dances, sprays, emotes. Like, you know what I mean? Like over time, that would be sick, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right, one last question before we wrap it up. Because I forgot to ask this earlier. Something that we did preview in the OG mag was the fact that there's going to be a new cat character, and she's going to have some voice acting. You want to expand on that a little more?
Yeah. Again, just like take everything in season 3 with a grain of salt, because we jam-packed so much stuff into the build that many of the things are going to be going in there either as a first pass or maybe a second pass, when ultimately we want to do like 4 or 5 passes on the system to make sure that it's feeling really good. But the goal, as I said, was the last thing that I wanted to do was have a new season and then just have the game feel like basically the same, with like, oh, you know, we added some new artwork and we added like, you know, an extra menu. It's like we wanted to make a huge splash. So that's why we just tried to get as much content in as possible. So we you know, we have implemented a voice line system for all of the characters. And we've also got some people to do some voices for us, which is amazing. That's awesome. That will be in the game. This one will be in a very much first pass state. So I think it's cool. I think it's still cool. It'll add some character and personality to the cats that are piloting the mechs, and ultimately that's the goal. But yeah, I mean, would love your feedback either way, even though it's just the first pass. I think some of the voice actors and actresses that we got were really amazing, and I really love how some of the voices turned out. I think for others, you know, could use a little work here and there. So, you know, it's still a work in progress. But the main thing was just getting the back end systems in place, because there's a lot of things that you need to hook up and a lot of game events that need to be tied with when to activate voices. So that was a pretty big undertaking. So we have the back end hooked up. It's just a matter of fine tuning the how it all looks and sounds and feels.
Love that.
Yeah, I thought it, you know, it was a sick comment when we spoke, to hear that you were looking more into like the, you know, building the actual IP of it and having the characters be more interactive. So W there. Jackie, yes, I'm super hyped because you know, mages being the second class that Max talked about. I'm very excited for that. I'm also really excited for Blitz because, you know, I can't wait to see what that looks like when she's like fully sped up and you're dashing around the map and doing all that. I'm always the guy that's really, really excited about trying out the new characters and figuring out where they're going to fit within the meta, understanding them. So even if I don't end up playing that character, I know how to counter them, things like that. Yeah. So I'm always really, really into that side of, you know, games when they add new characters and classes.
Dude, I'm also excited at the fact that, you know, Payload's coming, obviously, but back when you were here in season 2, you had shown us an alpha of a new map coming out, like that ice-looking map, and I'm super excited to play that map as well because, you know, the image you showed us looked absolutely sick. So I'm super excited to see how that one plays out in comparison to the other maps that we had access to previously. So
yeah, monumental undertaking. I think my art team, they saw the request and they're like, holy crap, like this, we've got our work cut out for us, because, you know, it's a completely new biome, which means a whole new set of textures and materials that need to be built from scratch. And the map itself is huge as well. So it was just a lot, but, you know, they've been absolute legends and they've been machines, like just working nonstop tirelessly to get this map into a state where, you know, hopefully looks as close to the concept as possible. It's looking good so far.
Amazing, dude. Shout outs to the team for working extremely hard on that. You know, that's awesome to see, man. I'm super hyped, man. I cannot wait for later in August. This is gonna be so fucking awesome.
3 weeks away.
3 weeks away, baby. I'm gonna start counting down. It's gonna feel like forever, you know. So
All right, all right. Any final thoughts? Any last questions? I'll make my way around the room. Let's start with Max. What are your final thoughts, Max?
Final thoughts. I mean, for me, like I just feel like I've been burrowed deep into the hole that is the trenches of game development in the team. Like there's so many different teams working on different things that need to come together to bring game features and game systems to life. And I just feel like, this is always a really exciting time leading up to a new launch, because this is usually when I can come up for air and breathe a little bit, but also, start talking to people like yourself, start talking to the community a bit more, talking to gamers, talking to influencers, and just kind of, I guess, getting a lay of the land again a bit more, because myself and the team, we've been super heads down. Marketing team have been killing it on socials while I've been, I guess, distracted. But yeah, I'm just really excited to get back into the community and the gaming side of things now that this kind of 3-month development sprint is coming to an end. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it. And as always, like I don't want any watered down feedback from people. Like I value honest feedback, whether it's good or bad. I'm not like, I remember around season 1, I think there were a few other like Web3 games that were doing playtests as well, and I'm not going to name them, but I always find it weird when people give negative feedback and then people on the game team, whether it's the founder themselves, sometimes they come in and they start arguing with them. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why do they do that? It's just feedback. Like you don't have to get hurt about it. Like that's the goal of building Web3, right? It's to get that feedback, whether it's good or bad, and to take it on board, and you can still decide what to do about it. It doesn't mean that you have to take that feedback and let it kind of affect you if you really feel that that's against the vision of the game. But I think going out on social media and like arguing with people about it's just an odd vibe. So I'm personally like I just want to make a PSA. Like, give me all the feedback. I don't care if it's positive or negative. If it's negative, I'll obviously it feels bad, but we'll take it on board and we'll make it better.
Yeah. I think the biggest point is if you are providing negative feedback, hopefully you're a person that knows how to present that, and you can stay open to like a conversation, right? Like almost like a debate. Like if you need to like prove your point or like showcase that points, right? Like there's no need to like get personal with it or like disrespect like team or whoever's working on the product, but there are some people that treat it like that, and like you said, it's up to the team to basically take that and apply it or not, like however they want to go about it. But yeah, man, I think constructive criticism is always a good thing.
Some of those people got to decipher. They're just farmers. They're not really gamers. So whatever. Like, whatever.
Yeah, you just got to decide on, like, who's providing you that feedback and like whether it's worth it to you or not, Yep. And then go from there. But Max, man, always a pleasure having you on the show. At least for me, from my perspective, it was a pleasure having you. Super happy with everything you share about Nion and what's upcoming. I'm super hyped for the future for you guys. Guys, make sure you guys check them all out. Check out Nion all over. I think you guys, the easiest way is in Epic, right? That's the easiest way to get your hands on
Epic. We have a Steam page as well. We're going to be launching on Steam, not for season 3, but hopefully season 4. But Epic for now is the best way. And if you go into the wish listed games, like we're still in the top 5, so you can find us there.
What a flex.
I do want to say, as a closing thought, I enjoyed the conversation today. It was very, very enlightening. Even like diving into like a little bit of game dev as well. I do want to say I randomly stumbled across the Nyan Heroes banner with We the People. I actually met that dude in Austin, where I live. And it would be a dream for me personally as a viewer and as a fan of Nyan Heroes to see the original juicer playing this game, to see his feedback on that, because that dude was a pro in Overwatch. So to see him play that would be a dream come true for me personally, just as a fan and a viewer. But
wait, can I ask who's the original juicer?
Oh, XQC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's the juicer. He always talks about getting the juice.
Okay. So. Yeah. No, I get that. He's on the radar. I didn't know that's what people were calling him, but he's on the radar. And actually, recently I saw that Overwatch 2 they got XQC to co-stream a tournament. I think that they were holding. So I don't know. He's definitely, yeah. I think the plan for someone like that of his, I guess, caliber and his pull would probably be closer to our open beta, because, well, you know, obviously his audience are Web 2, traditional gamers, so they're going to have their most magnified lenses on when it comes to new games, especially a game that has a tag of, you know, having some Web3 components. Everyone's going to have their judgment hats on, so we want to make sure that we present Nyan in the best light possible. So yeah, probably come later.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Final thoughts on my end. Thank you so much, Max, for coming. Always great having you on here with us. First ever, you know, consecutive repeat guest. I hope to make this a habit at this stage. You know, every season it would be cool to have you, you know, on the show. Yeah, thanks to everyone in the audience. You guys were awesome this week. You know, shout out to everyone that spent some time with us on this Sunday. And on my end, man, you never got to worry about me being honest with feedback. At one point, I didn't know where to contact you, so I was just sending feedback into like 3 different group chats. Yeah. So I mean, you know, we give the feedback because we deeply care for the game, and we deeply care to make Web3 gaming a place that has growth and actually, you know, good development and community behind it. So, you know, that is our mission here. Obviously, we play Web2 games, but we're Web3 gaming natives, and we'll do anything to push this industry forward. And that starts with great feedback, you know?
Yeah, cheers. Appreciate that, man.
Hell yeah, man.
All right. With that comes a close episode 37 of The Catalyst Effect, featuring Max and Nion, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be getting into the fucking game by hopefully the end of August, and you're going to see fuck ton of gameplay clips and all that sort of stuff.
More montages.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
go.
Montages, events, noodle bowls, you name it, it's going to happen. I can't wait.
And lots of catnip. Also, shout out to our sponsor, Player Blockchain, man. Thank you for supporting the show. Make sure you guys check them out. We'll catch you guys next week at the same damn time. Peace.